guys. We have Vivek Ramaswamy. We have Kaitlan Collins basically going over what the true definition of wokeness is in this country. All right. Without further ado, you know we getting right into it. Let's rock.
Oh my God!
You know, you've been dubbed the CEO of anti-woke. You have written several of these books. You've been very vocal of your criticism of what you say is wokeism, woke religion. Can you just define how how do you define woke?
Yeah, and I'm going to define it in neutral terms, not in critical terms. Being woke refers to becoming alert to invisible societal injustices, generally based on genetically inherited characteristics like race, sex, and sexual orientation, and then being called upon to act on those injustices using whatever potential legally means are necessary, including the market, to do it. That's a neutral definition that even most proponents of wokeism in the United States would agree with. Now, my criticism of this is I think that it's inherently divisive to tell us that we're nothing more than the characteristics we inherit on the day we're born. That divides us on the basis of race and sex and sexual orientation. And then when that merges with capitalism, which is what I've actually been the biggest critic of, what it does is we lose the sanctuary, the apolitical sanctuary in our economy that otherwise brings us together, whether we're black or white, even whether we're Democrat or Republican. That's one of the underappreciated reasons why capitalism has to stay apolitical. And I'm proud to say I've been the leader on leading that fight over the course of the last couple of years, and with some progress, because I think we're turning the tide where companies are realizing that they're not doing good for themselves or even doing good for society by engaging in these fraught political and social questions. Yeah. And I think we're beginning to see that change of the tide.
I know you have a lot of positions on the company's aspect. I want to get to that. But when it comes to this, is this your platform, would you argue? Because when people talk about inflation and what they're paying at the grocery store, do you really think that is the message that appeals to voters right now?
Well, that's the message I've been advancing for the last 3 years. But now we're taking this to the next level and running for the presidency. We're actually running to deliver unity to the country. It's much bigger than that. One of the core aspects of my platform is actually unleashing the American economy itself. There's this false debate, even within the GOP, between spending cuts or between raising taxes between Democrats and Republicans. I think we have forgotten the biggest ingredient to actually deliver us from our problems. That is GDP growth itself. GDP growth was over 4% in this country until the early 70s. It's been less than 2.5% ever since. I think we need to unleash the American animal inside the heart of the American economy. And so that's why I'm taking aim at certain opponents or certain anti-growth measures. I think we find a lot of that in the climate change policies in this country. That's why I've been as focused as I have on actually unleashing not only American energy, but the American economy overall. But to answer your question, no, this is about something bigger. This is about reviving a missing national identity, and that's the missing...
Stop. The one thing that I will say that I 100% agree with is when Vivek talks about identity. Because even over this past election, we've just been going back and forth, the right, the left, the this, the that. At the end of the day, Dr. Phil said something at a Trump rally, and, he talked about 9/11, and he talked about how on that day, there was no Democrat, there was no Republican. There was just, we are America. We are Americans, right? And just getting back in that space, right? And obviously I'm talking about, by that space, I mean, and it's actually sad that a tragedy has to happen for us to get back in that space to where it's like, we just feel, oh no, we're American. We put our differences aside, but that is just human behavior, unfortunately. But I am optimistic, and I do think we'll get to that space, but I definitely 100% understand Vivek's point here. And let me know if you guys agree with what he's saying so far, but I do. I have to admit, I don't think we're there yet. I'm going to be honest. I do not think we're there yet or close. I'm just going to be honest. I don't even think we're close yet, but we're getting there.
Ingredient to both unleashing our economy, as well as, and this is a core part of my campaign, taking on the actual foreign policy challenges that we face on the global stage. Number one is communist China. And I'm leading the way in this race in calling for a declaration of independence from China, because the key difference today is, unlike the USSR in the last century, we never depended on the Soviet Union for the shoes on our feet or the phones in our pockets. That is the case today. I think it's the number one external threat we face. And so I'm actually delivering a vision of national identity that hopefully allows us to make the short-run sacrifices we'll need to on the global stage to actually win as a country over the long run.
China is a major issue. We'll get to that in a moment. But do you consider yourself a conservative? How would you define that?
I do consider myself a conservative, but I don't believe that the defining political debate in this country is between Republicans and Democrats. I think it is between those who are fundamentally pro-American, whether you believe in the ideals that set this nation into motion, from free speech and open debate to meritocracy to self-governance over aristocracy. Do you believe in those ideals? Or are you anti-American? Do you actually wish to apologize for a nation whose existence is pinned to those ideals? And if you divide it up that way, I think it's actually an 80-20 split in this country. It's not just 50-50. And I think that sets up for a potential landslide election in 2024. Frankly, part of my motivation to run is to deliver that because I think that's the single most unifying thing we could get out of this country, just like a 1980 or 1984 style, Reagan style victory as well. So
given what you said about limited government, what you were just talking there about corporations being apolitical, do you agree with what Florida Governor Ron DeSantis did with Disney after they spoke out about his education bill?
I would have handled that situation a little bit differently. And I think we need to be actually precise about what the real drivers are of corporate wokeism. One of the underappreciated realities is that Disney's largest shareholders are BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. Indeed, the three institutions that promote ESG, environmental and social agendas in corporate America's boardrooms, that are the largest shareholders of most public American companies. And what they do is they set a cultural tone that causes these companies to behave in politicized ways from their boardrooms on down. That's a problem that needs to be fixed through the market, and I don't really believe in governments, whether it's on the left or on the right. You see this on the left, too, using the bully pulpit as a way to drive corporate change. I think the right way to drive corporate change is actually to do it through the root cause itself. And in this case, a lot of that's top-down, driven by the ESG movement in capital markets and in corporate.
Yeah. And he mentioned a lot of, I mean, guys, these are massive companies he's mentioning, right? I do mean massive. And, you know, let me be honest with you. I'm going to be totally blunt with you guys. A lot of the people that you see at the forefront, they're not the ones making all the decisions, okay? The people that you see at the forefront are not the ones making the real decisions. They are not. You got to look at who owns these companies, who owns these media companies, right? Because remember, like I say, and I've been saying this a lot, whoever controls the media can control a narrative. Whoever controls the media can literally control a narrative if people are watching. And what we saw in the past election was people tuning in to YouTube.com for the most part. Obviously, yes, people have cable. I'm not saying nobody watched cable and turned on their TV and watched CNN, Fox, all these other stations. However, there is a shift happening. So I say that to say, yes, Vivek is correct. And absolutely, these companies have a lot of power, but also you have a lot of power as well. If you're American or not, you have a lot of power. Just as a human being, you have a lot of power, right? But in this country specifically, speaking to my American people, because I know I have viewers that are outside of America as well. But if you are, then yes, you do have a lot of power. You do have a voice. And you know, I'm using mine. This is how I use mine, this YouTube channel, which, by the way, if you want to like, subscribe, appreciate it. But this is how I use mine, right? You don't see me with which, by the way, we should be getting it soon. But guys, I'm using a $500 laptop from Best Buy. And we've been blessed enough to have done over 10 million views on this YouTube channel. 10 million with a Best Buy laptop, right? So I don't say that to brag. I say that to say, you know, we live in a country where I could go to Best Buy and buy a freaking laptop and put it on my table. By the way, this table, I wish I could show it to you. It's a wooden table. It literally costs $50, right? I mean, that's incredible, right? So, and granted, I'm not saying everybody can do the same thing, but what I am saying is, you know, just the opportunities that we have, we should be taking advantage of them. And yeah, I know I went straight off a little bit out of topic there, but you get what I mean. All right, guys. So if you agree with what I'm saying in my little rant, I know you guys seem to sometimes like my rants. Make sure you let me know in the comment section below. I really appreciate you guys' support. Make sure you slap the like button and kick the subscribe button for more. Until next time.